Welcome to a Hopefulist hot take. When men think they know better. That is what we will be discussing today. So I want to put out a little warning for the squeamish. We will be talking about periods. And I just want to make a quick comment about the fact that we as women who have menstrual cycles do get squeamish when talking about it. And I wanted to kind of delve into that and why that is. It's because we've been trained. We have been trained to not discuss it because it is looked at as disgusting. It is looked at as something that we just don't want to talk about. And they've trained us to be that way. And that's why when Florida started enacting this new law that schools would not talk to girls about the start of their periods until middle school, which is after a predominant amount of girls will have already had their period. It's just another way of making the topic taboo. It's another way of letting women know they are other and that they are different than the boys and the men. That is exactly what that is designed to do. And the crazy part is they've already trained us to do that. So they're just making sure to continue it, to make sure that girls know from the get-go, you are other and different, and you have something that happens to you naturally every single month that can't be discussed. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, and it will get a little graphic. So again, if you're squeamish, I urge you to hang in there because this is one of the things that we need to do is we need to start talking about it. We need to start normalizing it. We need to take it out of the cave and discuss it like any other medical issue because that's what it is. Every woman on this earth just about gets their period once a month for the predominant amount that they are alive. So to be able to discuss it and talk with other people about it and have the information be accurate is so important. And as long as we're afraid to talk about it, things will never change. So what has me up in arms now is there's a new study that has come out that when it came to testing pads and tampons, feminine hygiene products, that the labels that claim how much each item is designed to hold are completely misleading. And do you know why they're completely misleading? Because when they tested these products, they used a saline solution to test them, which is basically water. And we've all heard the old adage, blood is thicker than water. They don't mean that in just the family sense. They mean that in the literal sense. Blood is thicker than water. So what made them think, even for a second, that that was going to be something that would represent what a woman experiences when she goes through her monthly cycle? And anybody who's had a period knows it's not like when you cut your arm and blood is running through your arm. There are other things that are deposited in that. It is not the same thing as bleeding from another part of your body. It is a different consistency. It's just not the same. And again, half the population knows this, but we don't talk about it. So you may have been going through most of your life thinking, oh, I guess I just have way heavier periods than everyone else because, you know, it doesn't work for me the way that it says that it should. For example, most of my period years, I couldn't just wear a pad because it would overflow. I couldn't just wear a tampon because it would leak. So I had to wear both. I had to wear both for the entirety of my period every month. And that made me feel like I was different from all of the other girls who could just wear a tampon. Now we're finding out that they're not working the way that they say that they work. So not only that, but when you go to the doctor bases how heavy, light, or moderate your flow is by how much of these hygiene products, these feminine products, you go through. So if they were being tested for water, which can hold a whole lot more than the actual flow of what is happening every month that has all kinds of particles and all kinds of stuff in it, then we're being misdiagnosed because it's not accurate. So you may be in a category where you're considered to have an extremely heavy flow when you don't, or vice versa. You may not have a very heavy flow according to the amount of product that you're using, but indeed you do have a heavy flow, which means that you could be at risk of other medical ailments, other risks, and it's not being recognized because they couldn't properly test these items. And again, did they even ask a woman? Did they even consult a woman to say, would the saline solution be a good representative of what happens? And we would have said no. No. Saline solution is nowhere close to what happens. So this study just kind of pries off the lid to so many issues that women have that make them feel other, that make them feel different, that put their health at risk because men think they know. They know that the saline solution is a proper example of what happens. And it's not. They were wrong. And here we are in 2023, and we're just discovering that this has been an issue. So there's so many times that I'm sure that you felt like you had way more than most people, that things didn't work for you the way that they were designed. And guess what? It wasn't you. The package was wrong. The package doesn't represent true life. It represents a saline solution, which again, completely different from the monthly cycle. This is just one example, and a glaring example of why it's so important to include women in these studies, to get feedback from women, maybe have the women test the products and report back. You know, there is some speculation that the reason that this was difficult to test is because, you know, you can't just take blood and use it as a test because, one, it's a biohazard. Two, it's a commodity. A lot of people need blood, so they can't just use it for testing. But how about we give women a bunch of products and say, how does this work for you? And get them to, you know, take a poll to keep track of things. Give it to women, female doctors, so that they can do it. They know more about the mechanics of it. It's just, it's so ludicrous to me that it took this long to figure out that the testing was not proper. And all of this time, all of these women were thinking, I guess I'm just worse than most of the women. I guess the products just don't work for me. Making them feel other and ashamed and like there's something wrong with them. it's not just this, though. I mean, there's so many issues that go into the fact that men were always the ones doing the testing and doing the studies, and they were the ones that the testing and study was based on, was the male body, not the female body, until just recently. That means that things are completely different in medical studies and medication and such for women. Do you know that more women die in car crashes? Do you know why? Because the crash test dummies were male bodies, not women's bodies. Do you know that women historically have more medication overdoses than men because the testing was done on male bodies, which is often more medicine than a woman needs because we have smaller bodies? Do you know how many women have been at risk of heart attack because their symptoms didn't mimic men's? We all know now, I hope we all know now, that women's symptoms for a heart attack are completely different than men's symptoms for a heart attack. If you're feeling terrible and you're like, well, my left arm's not numb, or I don't have a pain there, or whatever, that doesn't mean you're not having a heart attack. Do some searches on women's symptoms for heart attacks. Another issue that has come up recently is girls repeatedly do not get diagnosed with ADHD when they are young. Do you know why? Because their symptoms are completely opposite of boys. Boys speak out, are rambunctious, are hard to control. Girls, they start to do that, and they get societal pressure to tone it down, to stop acting out, and that's what they do. They get quiet. They get withdrawn. They don't speak out at all. These are the differences between the symptoms of boys and girls. You know, this is a topic that I've been wanting to discuss for a long time, is, you know, the things that are designed with just men in mind. And this is the one that really drives me crazy. And I still can't believe in this day and age we can't have done something different to make this a little bit easier for women. And I'm talking about porta potties. Yes, I am, because every single time I am in a porta potty, I think about this. You know, you're in a porta potty, they're disgusting, they smell, you're hot, you want to get out of there as soon as possible, and you know you can't sit on the seat. So you're squatting down, you're hovering over the toilet, and it's such an enclosed space. You can't just look down most of the time because your head's hitting the door. You can't turn to the left of you because that's where the toilet paper holder is. But when you turn to the right, what is right there at your face level? What is right there in your face? The urinal. That's right. So as I'm hovering over a toilet seat, squatting, uncomfortable, trying to get out of there as fast as possible, I have my face basically in a urinal. Why is the urinal not placed on the floor? Why does it have to be placed in the middle where my face is going to be? I just don't know why it doesn't occur to ask people that aren't like you for their input. Of course, no man's ever going to think that that's an issue because they're not sitting on the toilet. And if they are, they're probably sitting on the toilet. And they don't have to put their face somewhere. But all you had to do was ask one woman one time and say, and she would tell you, I'm sure, yeah, it's not so much fun to have a urinal right in your face when you're trying to do your business. These are just some of the issues that happen when men think they know better what women need than what women would know, than what women can tell them. So if you have often thought that your monthly cycle is much worse than most people's, because of how much product you go through. It's not you, it's the product. They were tested wrong. And this is why we need to talk about this. We need to talk to each other to find out that we're not strange, we're not abnormal, that we're all going through the same thing, and we all think it's just us. We have to take the stigma away from talking about this. And making laws saying that you can't talk about it until middle school in Florida is not helping that cause. So I urge you to get over your squeamishness and to speak out, to have these discussions, to make it normal. Because it is normal. It's something that happens to you every month for most of your life. We should be allowed to talk about it. Thank you for joining me today. I do appreciate you being here, and come back soon for another Hopefulist Hot Take.